Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. That last little noise is because it's cold. For those people who are not watching, I'm wearing a long sleeve top this morning, and it is necessary, like it hasn't been any other day this year. Just to show you things are definitely going towards the winter. And as if that isn't bad enough, there's been more rain. So much more rain. Oh my God. Rain, 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 rain. That's pretty much the whole weekend. In fact, it all broke loose on Friday afternoon. I was going to have a couple of friends over here for drinks on Friday afternoon, and then the thunderclouds, the heavens just opened, and everything was blowing all over the place, and I was like, I don't know if this was such a good idea. Anyway, that was the start of the weekend, and the rest of it went pretty damn well. Didn't end up doing the shooting that I spoke about on Saturday because of the rain. Otherwise, everything was pretty good. I hope you had a good weekend. Let us know what you got up to. You can always drop us a comment in the comments on the YouTubes. And if you would like to email us, just send an email directly to contact@cliffcentral.com. That pretty much covers everything. You know, today we've got two things that we often ask people to join in on. The first one being Collectomania. And we actually had a great meeting with Rail the other day from the South African Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. And Rail was telling us about some of his ideas of where we're going to take Collectomania, and it's fantastic. So today, if you have some idea, you wake up this morning, you're like, oh, I know someone who collects stuff, and you send us an email, we could end up featuring them soon on the show. Send us all their details, just contact@cliffcentral.com. And then the same goes for Dr. Hanan. You know, we get a free we get a free therapy session once a week with Dr. Hanan Bushkin, who's probably one of the most in-demand shrinks around Joburg, possibly even in the whole country. Because, you know, since things have gone virtual, he can do his consultations like this. And if you have something you want to unpack, maybe there's a relationship thing, maybe there's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of psychological personality or other kind of problem that you're not sure that you could deal with on your own. You just need some words of sage advice from someone who actually understands these things from a clinical point of view, then he's your guy. So Dr. Hanan joins us a little bit later on. And Sub says it is colder than a polar bear's toenails. Oof. That's about right. But he's also saying, good morning, my neighbors. You know how it goes from there, right? Rebellious Ruth says, good morning from a very wet KZN South Coast on our way home today from a fabulous holiday. Very, very nice. It's funny, I had a weird dream last night. I dreamt that I was in the Transkei. Now, I've probably only been in the Transkei 3 or 4 times in my life, which sounds like a lot, but the one really memorable occasion was driving all the way from East London to basically Umtata through the Transkei on my own. I went to a wedding near Umtata, and that was pretty amazing because the views, I mean, the roads it's harrowing. It's not an easy drive to do, but it's a beautiful part of the country. In my dream last night, for some reason, I was coming from southern KwaZulu-Natal over that bridge, which I think is the Kai River. And then you go over that. I'm not sure. I mean, I might be wrong. And then, you know, you go past the Wild Coast Sun, which I remember went to as kids. But for some reason, I was looking for stuff. I mean, you know how these dreams are. Sometimes they're very vivid. And in the dream, you can do everything. Like you can figure out in your dream you're using like Google Earth and shit, but I was somehow in the Transkei. So it's weird that you should be there this morning, Ruth, because I was dreaming about that area, the KZN South Coast, you know, all the way down into the Transkei. And it's a magic part of the world. I haven't been there in such a long time. We used to go on family holidays there often. A couple other people. Here's Shani, who's good morning from a brr and cold and wet Bloem. Yeah, I get you. That's about right. Sanbonani, says Stinkmina. Well, let us know what you got up to this weekend. We want to hear about it. Carl DeSantis says South Africans have like 17 days of winter and we bitch and moan through all of it. Yeah, we do, but that's part of being South African. We bitch and moan full stop about everything. But I always think my ancestors who did the incredible favor that they did to me and the rest of the family for coming to live in a place that's better than England for all of its weather. I mean, it feels like we may as well be in England this morning. Everything's, rainy, misty, cold, damp, dark. And this is not what there was. This was not in the bargain when I think they decided to come here all those years ago. All right, so tell us what you got up to. Let us know what your weekend looked like. We're just waiting for Leigh-Ann Mole to get onto the link, which she seems to be struggling with. But we'd love to hear from you. And coming up a little bit later on, we've got the 5 things you need to know. A couple of interesting stories in there. I don't know if this is an important story to you because some people were furious that we even covered this as many times as we did on the show. They thought it was boring and stupid. But Will Smith has been banned from the Oscars for 10 years. Now, if that doesn't prove to you it wasn't fake, I don't know what does, because there's no reason that the guy would accept a deal to help the Oscars ratings, which seems to have been, certainly that was Lebang's theory and a bunch of other people. If you're going to get banned for 10 years, if the Academy is so obviously against you, I don't know that was fake. And it's starting to impress upon me the craziness of what actually happened, if it was totally real, because I think many of us, including me, were like 50-50 on whether it was real or not. But if you're going to get banned for 10 years, and that's going to hit your career pretty hard, because as an actor, the thing you don't want to miss out on is the Oscars, especially like for the 10 years after you've won. Like this is his moment. Anyway, I mean, it's just, I think that kind of proves that there was nothing fake about it. And Robin says, quite rightly, Oscars are so lame, who cares? I agree. But we're talking about the psychology behind this, which I think is interesting. Nico says, the Wild Coast is by far the prettiest part of our coastline. Yeah, it's so funny. I was like, in the dream, I could see, it's called the hole in the wall or something? Is that like arch in the sea, in the Transkei coast, where the sea goes under it and through it, but it almost looks like a tunnel, like a bridge. So yeah, a heated body pillow is perfect for this weather to cuddle with for all those single people. Okay, Woody. So first of all, is this something that you have a body pillow that is heated? I need to know where to get one of these things. That sounds good. Not only because I know somebody, she told me that she bought one of those pregnancy pillows. It could even have been on the show, man. Maybe one of you guys will remember. But yeah, they told us that you get like a body pillow that you can cuddle with, and it actually helps you sleep better. It puts you in a better posture and all that kind of thing. And because it's not a human, it's not going to like get too hot or start to annoy you. This is this is me revealing again why I'm single and why I prefer to be. Hey, ass, how's it?
Hi. Sorry, having some issues connecting on my laptop.
No problem. That's a pretty background.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But we are using my cellular telephone for now.
Cellular phone.
Yes, darling. It's the hardest word to say when you've got dentals, is a cellular telephone.
How was your weekend?
Yeah, all good. Had the dinner with the landlords last night.
Oh yeah, how did that go? Because you told us that you were revving up for that one. Pleasant?
Yeah. So yeah, what I quite enjoyed is that they're posh in an old way, like an old English way.
Okay.
Being born in England and
Hey, are you holding your phone the whole time?
Yes.
Shame. This is ridiculous. Can't you like put it up against something and you don't have your arms outstretched there like you're like a zombie from The Walking Dead? Yeah,
how about that?
That'll work. No, I don't want you to struggle like this. Okay, so they're nice people, but they're posh in a kind of old English way. That doesn't sound so bad.
No, so that was pretty enjoyable. The type that you would understand, especially having been clay pigeon shooting this weekend.
Well, I mentioned at the start of the show we cancelled that because of the rain. We'll do it next weekend. So.
Okay, but yes, so sharing stories about He used to work a little bit consulting in the mining industry, and
Oh,
remember my grandfather, who died at 102, was the chief mining engineer at
right.
Anglo. So, yeah, and she was born in Rhodesia.
Rhodesia. Yes. Okay. So far, you probably had a very pleasant time. I mean, it doesn't sound like there was, a complete disconnect, and they sound like they had a lot in common with you. That's always a relief.
Yeah, absolutely. So, because, it felt in the beginning like I couldn't understand why I was a little bit anxious, but then I realized it's like meeting your school friend's mum who's not impressed by you at all, and you need to make a good impression. Or meeting your in-laws,
Yeah.
or meeting your
Well,
your boyfriend's parents.
I would say this one is an extra tough one, and you have to get it right, because if you don't, then you could be homeless. So the cost is very high. Like if you'd screwed up and they'd thought, "Oh my God, this woman is terrible. We can't have her as a tenant," and then they like found a way to kick you out the next day. I mean, that could have been it. The stakes are very, very high.
Well, you're right. But we are protected in South Africa. Remember, as tenants, you have almost more rights than you do a landowner.
Yeah, I think actually they should have been the ones who were nervous, because I think a tenant can completely like assume ownership of your house and kick you out. You have to be extra careful. All right, so listen, we were talking about these body pillows, and somebody said just now, Woody said, you get a heated body pillow that is perfect to cuddle with for single people. Now, a lot of people who are in relationships are going to laugh at this and say, "Oh, that's ridiculous. You people should be ashamed of yourselves." But I mean, I'm not the only one who thought that sounds like a good idea. Natasha says, heated body pillow, take my money. I mean, I know some people who are in relationships who would rather have a heated body pillow between them and their significant other than, actually have the body of that person right up against you.
It doesn't move around. It doesn't snore. It doesn't complain when you turn the light on. You can fart right into it. It has no. But yes, if you think about it, in Japan, people are paying people to cuddle them. Cuddlers.
I know, it's so sad. Now that is sad. That is sad. But okay, so if it's a heated body pillow, this is what I need to know, Woody, and we're getting closer and closer to the answer. So Michael reminded me that Sia actually was the one who had a pregnancy pillow, and he said his sleep improved with that pregnancy pillow. Remember? So I want to know now: is this heated body pillow a pillow? Woody, is this thing plugged in? Because then, if there's a cable, that's going to bother me. Isn't that's not ideal for a pillow? That's where I'm a bit confused. And if it is heated and it is plugged in, like a lot can go wrong with that kind of thing. I've always been a bit nervous of electric blankets for the same reason. It's not, yeah. So something like that, I need to figure it out, because it doesn't entirely make sense to me yet. And also, where would you buy such a thing? Viasen says you could call it the pump pillow. Yeah, I suppose you could, but you're not going to be banging this thing. Listen, I went and bought new pillowcases the other day, which is like, it's an essential, right? If you have good linen in your bed and you have a good bed, you are looking after yourself properly. We've spoken about this in the show so many times, because if you can't sleep properly and you don't like being in your bed and your bed is shitty, and you got to spend some money on that. If you think about how much time you spend in the bed, it's essential to do that, especially over a rainy weekend like this. You want your bed to be nice. That is something to spend money on. I mean, if you're going to go out today and spend any money at all, this is assuming you have any money, because I know all of us are under huge constraints at the moment. But if you do, that's the thing to go and buy. So Robin says, I have an electric blanket and 2 cats and lots of pillows. I'm surprised you can even get out of bed in the mornings, frankly.
Yeah, listen, I'm pretty much there with 3 cats and the electric blanket. I haven't turned on the blanket yet, though. It's kind of like when you go to a braai or some outdoor event and you've taken along something warm to wear, but you need to wait last minute to wear it, so that so that you don't end up getting used to the warmth of what you're wearing.
So I was, the same thing applies obviously to the linen question, because you now get like 800 and 1,000 thread.
Count.
Jesus. I mean, these things, by the way, a pillow in that kind of thread count is hundreds of rands. Hundreds. Not just a couple of rands.
Pillowcase.
Yeah.
Yes.
Pillowcase. Sorry. A pillowcase
Yeah.
in that. That's expensive stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. But and people will say they don't feel the difference. You know, they if you just buy your sheets from Sheet Street,
Yeah, sure, wherever.
then you won't feel the difference. But you do. If you put two pillows next to each other, you'll know the difference.
Yeah, I don't know. I think we've become, like humans have become quite soft. People didn't have linen before. They just use an old horsehair thing with some kind of, you know. I mean, this is what we used to. Our mattresses used to be made out of sisal. Do you remember sisal?
Yes, Sisal. I actually have one of those antique chairs that is stuffed with horsehair. And every now and then, you think that getting a little feather pricking out of your duvet is irritating. Imagine an itchy, long, pokey horsehair coming out of your bedding.
Yeah, you know what? It's amazing. Like I think we've become really, really soft, and we're so into our little luxuries, whether it's and it's crazy things. Like I remember there was a car I drove. It was only for a few days. It was one of Phil from DeWitt Motors cars, and this thing had seat warmers and seat coolers, which is like the ultimate luxury. It's such a it probably wouldn't cost you like the most money out of all the things that you can do to your car, but I always thought, wow, this is the most luxurious thing ever. Because if it's a hot day, then it blows this cold air through the little holes in the seat, and if it's a cold day, then you just have the heater on and kind of it warms you in your seat. I'm like, wow, this is the kind of thing that any human before this generation of humans would have thought, nah, that's impossible. That's way too luxurious. You know, like even spacecraft don't have that.
Yeah, for sure. But I think for me, the best part of having seat warmers when I did have them was playing tricks on people, on your passengers.
And just you switch them on.
Watching them slowly start to sweat and wriggle in their seats.
That's exactly right. So I got into a whole argument with somebody. We'll close off this bed linen and heated pillow thing. So first of all, let me just say that there are some good answers coming in here, some very helpful information. So Carol says that the heated pillow charges throughout the day, and then you unplug it when you use it. That makes me feel a little more comfortable. All right.
Very, very clever.
And then Shani says a coir hair mattress. You used to get those as well. That's exactly right. Everyone is a little bitch, says Carl here, bringing us back to reality. Thread count, just go to sleep and then wake up. People are being slapped at award ceremonies, and this is what we're worried about.
Yeah, I saw an article recently on sleep psychologists who say you shouldn't have white linen because it disturbs your sleep. I'm like, I'm sorry, the room. I don't care if my sheets are peach or olive or brown. I'm going to sleep well, even though I do prefer white.
I don't know that it makes any difference. I've just always had white bed linen, and I kind of prefer it. Maybe just because it makes me think my bed is nice and crisp and clean. Who knows? Apparently, if you take a magnifying glass or worse still, a microscope to any of your pillowcases or your bed linen, you're just going to be horrified. So I'm just going to say right there that it's all in your head. You think, oh, a nice clean bed, brand new linen. Ooh, this is going to be so awesome. Meanwhile, there are little animals and creatures that are already living in there that you don't know about. Anyway, I mean, enough about all of that. We've got lots to talk about this morning. First of all, and it's related to what we're discussing here. Leigh-Ann has got a list of things that are classy if you're rich, but trashy if you're poor. And again, this just shows how we are able to be such hypocrites, humans. You know, certain things, if you have money, and you do them, or you wear them, or you perform them, or you take part in them, people are like, wow, that's so cool. He's rich, but he does that. And then if you're poor, they have the exact opposite point of view about you. They're like, ugh, sis, he's poor and he does that. Ugh. You know what I mean?
Exactly. So I think the number one and possibly most obvious one is working. I mean, if you're rich and you're working.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Not on.
because look at people, look at how impressed people are at like these billionaires who are pulling, 18-hour days. Like, wow, that guy gets no sleep. He's so busy making his billions. Meanwhile, it was one deal that made him successful back in like 1999. And now he mostly spends his days kind of checking other people's comments on the internet. But then if he works an 18-hour day and he's already got billions in the bank, you're like, wow, what an impressive person. This guy has such a good work ethic. Meanwhile, like poor people, everybody has to work.
Exactly. And
The rest of us are like, not a big deal.
if you're poor and you're not working, then that's definitely looked down upon. Look, this is in countries where you can actually get a job. Let's just be honest. Right. Okay, so another thing is,
but just to go back to that, like a lot of the normal people, and I say in inverted commas by referring to us, like we people who have to work, and frankly who don't despise it, but we do aspire to not work. We think our lives will be so much better if we don't have to work. And again, I got to say that that's not always true, because I know people who have stopped working. Either they've made like millions on crypto or whatever, and they've decided they're going to spend the rest of their lives just chilling or traveling or doing they get bored very quickly. So just to make you feel better this morning, if you have to get up and get dressed and go to work, and most of us do, those people who don't have a job or have chosen not to work anymore because they've got tons of money, they're not happier than you necessarily. Don't think immediately that they are, because you may actually be wrong. You'd be surprised to know.
Okay, so another thing that is classy if you're rich, but trashy if you're poor. Mm-hmm. The most expensive thing you own is a really old car.
I see what you mean. Because some of these rich bastards, they've got these beautiful sports cars from like the 1960s, and they cost what 8 of our houses would cost, and they tinker with them, and they have them serviced by these incredible like old school antique car mechanics and engineers, and yeah.
Well, they were one of the Bond cars or something like that.
Yeah, it won the Le Mans back in like the 1950s or whatever, and this thing is painted like British racing green, and the chrome shines like a mirror. It's just incredible. Those things are. Then you contrast that with someone who's a really old car, just because that's the only car they've ever had, and it's the only car that they can keep, and they don't have an option.
Expensive thing that they own.
Right. Absolutely. Like that yellow Datsun that's been parked out in the rain for most of the weekend. It's going rusty, and the seats are fucked, and it's got a hole in the floorboards.
It's never going to be a real vintage.
Yeah. No one's going to want to buy those old cars one day. No. Trust me. Mm-mm.
So another thing that's classy if you're rich and trashy if you're poor is being on a first name basis with a judge.
Oh man, yeah. There are people who like to. I went to a dinner party once where there were 2 judges, and there was some. I think there was an MP. There were all these people who are tremendously important, and these are people who make and apply the law, and people call each other judge at the dinner. I was like, well, you just call me Gareth, but that was about the closest I got to a judge. And I think those are the rich people who, when it's classy, a judge on a first name basis. But the poor people, it's like, please don't send me to jail. I'm so sorry. I owe that money. I'll try and pay it back.
When the judge looks at you appearing in court and says, "Oh, you again, Simon."
Yeah, you don't want that. No one wants that, right?
No.
All right.
Another one is to think about is, if you are weird and rich, people call you eccentric, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
But if you're weird and poor, people call you crazy.
That's exactly right. Yeah, correct. I mean, to make the point, this is something that Robin says. She says, if you go to the shops in slippers and you're a rich lord, that's okay. People are like, oh, look, there he is in his his leather, whatever they are, slippers. there's that crazy lord who lives in the castle up the road, but he's eccentric as hell. But if you're just if you're a poor person who lives under a bridge and you do crazy things like you collect body hair in bottles, then people go, no, you're insane.
Or if you just go to the shop in your slippers and you're me.
Yeah. They're like, oh my God, look what's happened to Leigh-Ann. She's really lost it. You know, she's gone back. Yeah. Cheryl says, even if I won the lotto, I would still work. Yeah. And Corona's boring, just reinforcing the point. Retirement is one of the biggest killers. Spot on.
Yeah. But of course, there are other ways to keep yourself interested. Like, as I was speaking to my landlords last night, there's bridge and sewing and crocheting and clubs and bowling and all of. So here's another one to think about. Drinking in the park. People do it, it's a banquet. But when poor people do it, you're just hammered and need to get off the swings and put your pants on.
There's that homeless person drinking in the park. Yeah, and that's not cool. But if rich people, I know what let's take a picnic basket and let's go and drink in the park. That's very, that's very smart. Have you got the champagne glasses? Oh, look, there's that guy who went to school with us. Tom, look at him. He's taking a shit under those bushes. I think he lives in the park.
Yeah, he lives under the seesaw. He doesn't even realize when children are on it.
Oh my God. All right. Yes, absolutely.
Another one is if you live in a tiny home, which is all the rage, it's eco-friendly. But if you live in a trailer, you're trash.
Yeah, I've watched this show. In fact, I think it was now a couple of weeks ago, but it was on one of the channels where they've got these people who live in these tiny homes, and it's such a thing at the moment. It's such a it's a trend. It's a tremendously popular trend right now. So people are living in these tiny little homes where basically, everything can fit into a space as big as, I suppose, this room, and maybe this room would even be considered luxury, because some of these people's houses are literally in, a caravan, and they're very fancy. Like they spent a lot of money.
Where the toilet seat doubles as a cutting board.
No. And they're very cool. They also build these places out in the woods that you can almost completely dismantle. Someone said to me over the weekend, and I thought this was a good one. If you say to someone, why don't we go and spend the winter in my cottage in the forest? That sounds like really exciting, like I've got a cottage in the forest. It sounds all cozy and lovely. But if you say, why don't you come to my cabin in the woods? It has exactly the opposite. You think you're going to be killed.
Yeah, exactly.
From the biltong.
So another one is when somebody else raises your children. Classy if you're rich, trashy if you're poor.
Right, because it's not as if someone raising your children, if you are poor, is always up to you, because the judge we spoke about just now might have given your children to someone else.
Yes, or the judge has put your parents into custody again, and you've been by your aunt or your gran.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Otherwise, it's, where are the children? Oh, they're with the nanny.
Yes. Oh, I do like the way it looks today, and then hands the child back.
Oh yeah, it is appropriately attired for the day. You can take it back now, nanny, whatever your name is. Go. There we are. Yeah. Good boy. We'll see you at supper time for your quick hello.
Yeah.
Any others?
Oh yeah, I've got plenty. You just tell me when to stop.
No, I'm not bored. We got to get to headlines, but give me one more.
Okay. Getting money from the government.
Ooh, that's I don't know. Is that classy if you're rich? Maybe if you get a tender, I suppose. If in South Africa,
really well connected. That you're at these fundraising tables and you get this enormous package from government because they believe in what you're going to be doing.
or a grant for research or something. Maybe I don't know. I don't see that one as the most obvious one, because usually anytime that a government's giving you money, it's either dodgy as hell or it's because you're very poor. So I don't know if that's one that the rich can explain away very easily.
Okay, and then there's one last one, and it is of course a picture of the Will Smith slap, and it says, "I guess slapping people."
Mm-hmm. Because again, he could get away with that at the Oscars, little slap on the wrist, so to speak, even though he's been banned for 10 years. But try and do that if you're an ordinary person at like a corporate function. See how well that goes for you.
Yeah, or at Spur, just walk up to someone and slap someone,
Spur. All right, no, not a good idea. All right, this is interesting. Congo Chris says in 2011, Jeff Bezos claimed a $4,000 child tax credit. Wow. See, but this is also where rich people do some strange things, because they really do watch where every cent goes, right?
Frugal.
Right. So they're very careful with their money, and then they have a tax advisor. Usually, I don't think Jeff Bezos even knew what that was, but his accountant or auditor or financial advisor did it for him. And it's like, yeah, okay, that's what we do. All right, Michael asked, and we'll do it. Can we do the news, please? Yes. So let's get to some headlines for this morning. Let's look at a couple of things that are going on.
I'm going to switch over to my bigger screen, and I'll see you in a bit.
Right. Cool, that's no problem. We'll get you on now. So, all right, Michael, here you are. So first things first, considering a COVID booster shot, a German man got nearly 90 of them, the police say. Now, this is the kind of stupidity and insanity that has started to grip some people in the world. According to the Los Angeles Times, a 60-year-old man allegedly had himself vaccinated against COVID-19 dozens of times in Germany in order to sell forged vaccination cards with the real vaccine batch numbers to people not wanting to get inoculated themselves. The man is from the city of Magdeburg, whose name was not released in line with German privacy rules. He's said to have received up to 90 shots against COVID-19 at vaccination centers in the eastern state of Saxony for months, until police caught him this month. He was not detained, but is under investigation for unauthorized issuance of vaccination cards and document forgery. Oh, man. It is kind of funny that even in South Africa, it's one of the reasons I love this place so much, is that there are people who are selling, guaranteed somewhere in the country, there are people selling fake vaccination certificates, right? And for those people who take the whole vaccine thing so seriously, this is like the most outrageous thing that could possibly happen. And they're horrified by it. And here's this dude who's got like 90 shots. They say he's in fine health. They say there's nothing wrong with him at the moment. Apparently, health experts say the most recent surge of infections in Germany, triggered by the Omicron subvariant, may have peaked. On Sunday, the country's disease control agency reported blah, blah, blah cases. Nobody cares about cases. But they've only registered overall since the beginning of the pandemic 130,000 deaths. Look, it's still a lot of people. But there are the numbers that matter, the death numbers. But if you are one of those people also on the opposite end who think, oh no, the vaccine is definitely full of microchips and it's there to mutate you and turn you into a monster. If this guy, after 90 shots, hasn't turned into a monster, I think we can say safely that there's no reason to be afraid.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've kind of forgotten whether you had a booster or not, don't worry, just go for it.
Or just don't. Like, who cares anymore? Because they also sold it to us on the basis that we wouldn't be infecting other people. But that doesn't seem to make any difference since Delta and Omicron. All right, then Joe Biden, speaking of people who need the vaccine shot more than we think, Joe Biden, and I don't know what to make of this story, but he called Cyril Ramaphosa after the South African abstention in the UN. We had to vote against Russia. And apparently Joe Biden called Cyril and said, like, hey, man, like, why did you vote against Finland? And then Cyril went, Finland? And Joe said, I mean...
oh, come
Russia.
on, Gareth. No, man.
Russia. And then Cyril went, what? Have you got the right number? Who is this?
Are you
Don't call me again. Yeah. Sir, can we send a nurse? Can we send a carer to your house? Would you send me your address and we'll send a carer to your house?
Do you have one of those panic buttons around your neck? Have a feel.
Yeah, if you can feel a panic button, or have you got one of those cylinders that they've tied around your neck with a little chain that has your name and ID and date of birth and a phone number of a relative on? Because can we call them? I mean, I'm sure that didn't happen, but either way, so Cyril had to take a call from Joe Biden, and Joe probably said, like, why didn't you vote with us against Russia? And then Cyril said, well, because we're Russia's little bitch. And then Joe went, well, I understand what it's like to be someone's little bitch. And then, the two of them had a long conversation. We don't know the details, but that's apparently what happened. I mentioned this earlier, but Will Smith has been banned from the Oscars for 10 years over the infamous slap. And then this is a case, well, it's a boxing match, actually, which got a lot of people talking. Casper Nyovest and Nuck Music apparently had a boxing match at this Celeb City boxing match, right? And it
so
was
not just like a boxing match where he got up and slapped him. It was planned.
This is a planned one. After months of hyping up the celebrity boxing match, fans enduring multiple delays on Saturday night, the two celebrities put on an exciting show for thousands of viewers. Knowing there could only be one winner, fans and industry friends of the pair put their money where their mouths were and took bets to back either Team Casper or Team Narc. And the pair gave spectators an exhilarating match. Apparently, Narc Music proved the better boxer and took home the coveted belt. But it's a celebrity boxing match, so
yeah,
there we go. It's nice of them to be expanding their talents out of just music into hitting each other with their fists. This is great. More celebrities. More
onwards and upwards.
Right. All celebrities should know that this is a very exciting way for you to develop a new and very different fan base just by hitting each other. And then this is cool. Apparently, Pink Floyd, remember them, have released their first new song since 1994, and it's all because of the Ukraine. The song, called Hey Hey Rise Up, was created to raise funds for the United Nations Ukraine Humanitarian Fund. The idea came from guitarist and singer David Gilmour, who has a Ukrainian daughter-in-law. So that's why he was involved.
Okay, that makes sense when you have some kind of connection, I suppose. Yeah.
Very, very nice. Do you want to hear what
it's not as
like?
Contrived.
Want to hear what it sounds like?
Yeah.
Just tell me if you can hear this, all right? We got to quickly get past the ads, because this is what happens now when you press play on anything. You have to wait for like 30 seconds for the goddamned ads. And I thought I had like ad blocker in here.
Or I'm sure you had some.
I've had a YouTube premium. Oh, this isn't on YouTube. That's the problem. I can't tell you how dumb this ad is. It's like a Woolworths Easter ad, and it's so goddamn annoying. It's terrible. All right. So anyway, let's get to this. Where is this stupid song? Play, you son of a bitch. No, that's not it. That doesn't sound like Pink Floyd at all, does it?
Yeah, it sounds a little too upbeat.
Okay, here it is. First, it opens up with a whole lot of tanks. It says, on 24 February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine. Boombox singer Andriy Kivnyuk ended his U.S. tour and returned home to Kiev to defend his country. And then they finished telling the story. And this is how it goes. So it's what you would expect of a fundraising song. All right, very nice. I'm sure people are flocking to go and get that nice, depressing song.
Sure.
When they play it. I have a much better song, by the way. This is a song I found yesterday on Instagram. It's a guy called Bungalow Jonathan. He's like a short, nondescript, kind of fat dude. And his song may be familiar to you. Let me play it for you. Can you hear this, Leigh-Ann?
I wore them last year.
Can you hear that? You
Jackson
hear that,
5.
right?
Yeah.
So here it is.
Fit into my pants. I wore them last year, but then I gained weight. I no longer fit into my pants.
So great. That's a much better song than the one that I just heard from Pink Floyd. So sorry about that.
Yeah, I wonder how many people's wardrobes have changed through the years of COVID we've had.
Oh, definitely.
I think a lot of slimmer clothes are going to charity.
Well, I mean, I know people who've used the last 2 years to get into really good shape. I mean, obviously Ben springs to mind, but there are lots of others too. Some people have come out of this looking a lot better, and some people have come out looking a lot worse. I hope you're in the former category and not in the latter. But then who knows for sure. All right, what we do on a Monday is we check in with Dr. Hanan Bushkin, and sometimes we get someone who has a particular problem that they want Dr. Hanan to help them address, and we've had that for the last couple of weeks, where people have brought us their sometimes very personal and sometimes very, very serious problems. Sometimes they're less serious, but we don't mind. We unpack them all. And if you want to be anonymous, you can do that too. Just email us, contact@cliffcentral.com. And you know what? If we could put you on the line with Dr. Hanan and he can give you a free therapy session, that would be nice. Something you don't have to pay for. Plus, you get to hear the expertise of someone who is not only going to give you the clinical side of the diagnosis, but probably some really good advice overall about how to handle it yourself. So lots of cool stuff going on there. But today we want to do something a little bit different with Dr. Hanan, because although we've had him on with lots of people and their problems up to now, he wanted to discuss with us something which I think has been at the back of many people's minds, men and women. Why do women cheat? Now, this is an interesting question, and the best person to help us understand it. And don't worry, girls, we're not going at you about this. We're not saying that women cheat more than men or any of that stuff. In fact,
well, I mean, as a woman who has cheated, I'm interested to hear.
Yeah, what is the psychology behind this? So here he is. He's Dr. Hanan Bushkin. How's it, Dr. Hanan? How are you?
Hey, guys. I'm well. How are you?
Fantastic. All right. So this is a very controversial thing because people like to stereotype, and they like to go, oh, well, it's men who cheat and men are the ones who break up many relationships. Or they're on the other side and they go, oh, it's those bloody women. They're always cheating. Now, none of that is necessarily true across the board. But there are different reasons that men and women cheat. And today we're going to look at, or to start the conversation, why women cheat. Do they, Doc? Do they cheat? Do they cheat more than men? And what specific things are going on when a woman cheats that maybe aren't going on when a man is?
Right. So the reason why this is actually quite an important topic is because why people cheat is always kind of centered around men. Men are seen as much more likely to cheat, and actually, according to research, they are twice more likely to cheat than women. As a matter of fact, figuring out the percentage, it's quite difficult, because when we look at the research, people don't like to answer that question honestly. They actually don't answer it at all, or lie about it. They see cheating as bad as murdering someone or stealing from someone, and therefore people don't want to answer it honestly, even to anonymously to researchers. But according to the research, it's somewhere around 50% of men and 24, 25, 26% of women that have affairs. It's quite high. And
now,
people, yeah.
Sorry, obviously, I'm not the best at maths, but that means half the number of women cheat than men. But obviously, all those men are cheating with a woman at some point. We're assuming there's a huge amount of straight heterosexual cheating going on here. Then that means that if those 50% of men are cheating, there are women out there who are the recipients of that cheating or of that man's attentions. Isn't that correct?
Or homewreckers, as we would not like to call them.
Yeah, exactly.
Those damn homewreckers.
So the reason why it's almost doubled in numbers is because men are more likely to cheat with multiple women, whilst women are more likely to cheat with one guy, kind of connect to one person and stay with them as the partner, as the alternative partner. That's why the number is doubled. But if you ask a woman versus a guy, what does it mean cheating? What does it mean having an affair? A guy will say, well, it's obviously she's sleeping with someone. And it's interesting, because if you ask the woman the same thing, what does it mean if your man has an affair? It obviously means that he loves her. So women attribute cheating, or the definition of cheating, very differently to the definition of men. Have you ever seen, do you remember the show Cheaters on TV?
The trashy, busting people in the street show.
So exactly. So the premise of the show is you get a private detective to follow your husband or your wife or your partner, and they bust them in a hotel with someone else, and they call you up and say, do you want to come and confront them face to face? And it's so interesting because they've done research on this, And if a man busts his woman, his wife, the first thing that he asks her, did you sleep with him?
Yeah.
And when a woman busts her husband, the first thing she asks him is, do you love her? So it's, the definition of cheating and affairs can range from physical affairs, it could be emotional affairs, which is very important to differentiate, and even financial affairs. People hiding money, buying things on the low for someone else without their partner finding out. Emotional affairs, by the way, the 50% of men and 26% of women, that's what we're talking about, sexual affairs, having sex with another partner. But emotional affairs are way, way, way more prevalent. That I would predict that's probably in the 70s, even in the 80s for men and women. That's the connection, falling in love with someone else. Now, the main reason why women cheat, I was thinking about my practice and the people that come here, and I asked them honestly and candidly, why are you having affairs? And there were a couple of reasons why people have affairs, and I'd love to, if we have time, to talk about even signs, so the listeners could actually look for these things in their partners and question. One of the things is immense dissatisfaction in the relationship. So women are just not happy with their relationship. Low self-esteem can also cause somebody to have an affair.
Okay,
so
makes sense.
You think about it. Like, I don't feel good about myself, and here comes a guy from work that has incredible amount of status and resources and power, and suddenly they give me some compliments and makes me feel better about myself. Well, I'm drawn to that. Well, if the husband doesn't, if the partner doesn't, and my colleague does, well, that's where I'm going to go. That person makes them feel noticed and special and valued. Imagine coming home every day and not being noticed by your partner. It's awful. And by the way, being in a relationship is a very natural thing. Being in a committed relationship isn't so much. Do you know, out of the 5,000 species in the world, only 3 to 5% resemble what we call committed relationships?
Really?
It just doesn't exist in the real world. Yeah, for sure. So being in a relationship is very, very natural for human beings, but being in a committed relationship is hard work. And when you stop working at something, well, it dies. That's what happens. So many women, for sure. A lot of women, I see this in my practice, go and have affairs for revenge. Yes. So they have their partners that maybe they've done something wrong, and suddenly they go, well, stuff it, now I'm going to go out and show him why I am desired, why I am loved, teach him a lesson. So if he thinks he can do this to me, let me show him how it feels. So a lot of times for revenge.
And I'm doing some armchair psychology here, but I'd hazard a guess that if you go out and try and have an affair because of revenge, that's not going to help anything. That's certainly not going to make it okay and make it better, right? That's going to make it a whole lot worse. That's a terrible reason to do it.
Well, it's a horrible reason, because at the end of the day, what are you achieving? The intention is wrong. You're trying to get back at someone, and think about it. If you don't get back at them, then you feel horrible. And if you do get back at them, then they feel horrible, and the marriage ends anyway, or the relationship suffers anyway. So the intention of the affair is completely wrong. Another reason why women in my practice tell me that they having an affair is lack of excitement, or they just don't feel that excitement that they felt in the first few weeks or the first few months of the relationship. And women, just like men, have affairs, and this is a common and mutual reason, is they do it just for sex, because they just want to spice up things in the bedroom, and they just, they see the opportunity, and they just want to spice up their sex lives. Loneliness is another thing. And one last thing, and one last major reason, by the way, that is very, very important to mention why women have affairs, is because they're ready to jump ship, and they want almost like an insurance policy, and they want to go and test the waters somewhere else. So they're not really sure about their current relationship, or maybe they're really unhappy about their current relationship, and they go out and they meet someone and they go, this could be my next partner, somebody that could father my children, somebody that can look after my family, somebody that's financially secure, somebody that I can be with for the long term, and I want to go and test it out. So it's almost an insurance policy. While I'm still married, let me go and test out another relationship.
And it's not only that, and here again is something that's unhealthy, yet we do use it as a crutch. And that's lessening the pain of a breakup and being alone by having somebody who's already ready for you to enter a relationship with them. And we know that's unhealthy because you're then not processing the previous relationships breakup. But it is something that we do.
Absolutely. Yeah, a lot of people fear being alone. They fear being lonely. So they want to kind of, before they jump into something else, they want to have the comfort of their current relationship. And whilst they're kind of brewing the new relationship, and when it's ready, they just jump ship, not actually realizing that it's just as difficult. It's not easy jumping into a new relationship because it's a new learning experience anyway. So those are the main reasons in my practice, at least, that I see why women cheat.
Here's an interesting question, or rather a comment being made by Ndogozo. He says, men cheat, women are just really better at hiding it. Do you think that's right, Doc?
So women and men lie at the same rate. We know from research that men mostly lie about their financial standings and physical attributes, and women mainly lie about their weight. So, when we look at research from Tinder, women are generally put on 20 or 30, or they take off 20 or 30 pounds of their weight, and men actually up their income status by 20 or 30%. So women and men lie at the same rate because we all want to be in a relationship and we want to appear, or what society deems as very socially high in status. And for men, it's their social, financial standings, and for women, it's their looks. So that's what we lie about. But we lie at the same rate, but about different things.
Amazing. We lie about different things. And do you think that women are generally better at keeping secrets than men, or at hiding things? Or is that just nonsense?
Yeah. So no. So we're both pretty, with the advance in technology, 40 years ago, it would be a lot more simpler to hide things, to hide cheating. These days, if you put it on the net, it's going to be found. I'm yet in my practice to see somebody having an affair or cheating without it being found by someone, a colleague, a boss, certainly the partner. Especially now that you're on your phone 24/7, it's very difficult to hide the fact that you are cheating. I mean, what did we do 40 years ago? You'd have to get out the house. You'd have no way of contacting somebody through a cell phone. You have to meet them. The traces are gone. I mean, the footprints are gone. So these days, it's easy to find out. We both are equally as bad.
That's true.
Not only that, but people expect it less of women. So you could very well be cheating and no one expects it of you, not your friends, your family, or your husband.
Yeah, for sure. That men are much more closely scrutinized because we are labeled as, well, if it's a man, what is the saying? I think Chris Rock actually said it. Men are faithful only as long as the opportunity doesn't present itself. Something along those lines.
Wow.
So when the opportunity comes,
No, you just want to slap him. Okay, so how about this? I mean, Doc, this is a really interesting discussion. I was blown away by that idea that you put into my head just now about, kind of the way women respond when their husband cheats or whatever. The same goes obviously for men in a different direction. They just want to know if they've slept with them. The woman wants to know if you're in love with her, right? But there are these relationships throughout history, and again, if we look at some of the most interesting people throughout history who've had affairs and had husbands or wives, but they've also had a bit on the side. Is there a way, in your opinion, that can work for both partners? And what kind of maturity, what sort of relationship, or what kind of really messed up situation do you have to have for that to work? I mean, we know about all these, these kings from, the past who had the wife, and she's been this long-suffering wife, and then there've been all these women who've been the mistresses. Is that something that can work, or is it, because it certainly seems to have worked on paper for those people? We know that there must have been huge emotional duress and stress and everything else. Have you ever seen it work?
So I have actually seen it work, and the truth is that relationships are socially constructed. So we define it firstly, so we can have long-term relationship. You can have a one-night sexual relationship with someone, or you can have an open relationship and a million things in between. The rule is that both partners agree to the terms and the rule set of the relationship. And if the rule set should change, you should communicate it and agree to the new rule set. The problem is when one person changes the rule set in the relationship without aligning it with the other person, and then somebody's getting hurt. So a relationship can work in different shapes. I'm telling you, in the last 20 years, out of thousands of relationships that I've seen, I'm yet to see one standard definition of a relationship. They all are so different. I mean, we call it a marriage, but marriages and the way it's constructed is so different from couple to couple, from partner to partner. But as long as partners agree on the terms of the relationship and how it's going to be played out, the rules of the game, then it can really, really work, however weird it is. Whether you bring somebody else into the relationship, whether you have an open relationship, whether together you explore other couples, they all can work and work relatively well as long as you communicate the rules.
Well, we'll end it on that note. I do think this is a fun sort of, well, not a fun, but certainly an interesting story to comment on. And from Chilako saying, I found a connection with someone, shared quite some time with her, and found myself falling for her, only to later find out that she had been in a relationship with another man for 6 years. So it doesn't just go one way, that you would think that was a woman having an affair with a man, and that was his secret. You hear about these guys who have a second family in another town.
For sure. And I'll just end off by saying this, that a lot of people have affairs and they think, okay, well, let me dabble and see what the relationship is like, and they love it. But when they jump ship and they actually wake up next to the person in the morning, they have breakfast next to the person in the morning, when they come to work and have conversations with the person after a heavy day of work, it's different. Having an affair versus having a relationship are two different things.
Well, that'll put the fear of God into anyone who's thinking of having one this morning. Because I mean, just imagine having to have breakfast with the person you've been cheating with, and then go to work together and pretend like it's all perfectly normal. Nah. You've just shown us why we shouldn't be doing it, Doc. Thanks very much.
All right. Nice to see you guys.
There we go. Dr. Hanan Bushkin. He didn't come in here hoping to give us a moral lesson, but we got one at the end anyway. That's interesting. I think I love hearing about the ways that human beings construct these relationships. And he said it, they're all socially constructed.
It's highly complicated. And out of all of those reasons that he mentioned why women might have affairs, obviously he'll agree that sometimes it can be an intricate combination of all of them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. The more complex the people involved, the more complex the relationship can end up getting. And eventually it reaches a point where it's just too complicated and you can't keep it up. And ultimately that's where so many of them fall apart.
Yeah.
You think you've got it working. You think you've got a nice balance going there. You think you've got everything that you and the other person want. And it still doesn't necessarily tick all the boxes. So who knows? But I think that's a fascinating conversation to have. Appreciate having Dr. Hanan on, as always. If you've got a story, you've got an issue that you need resolved, you want to join us live on the show for some free therapy, get in touch with us, contact@cliffcentral.com. Stick around. We've got a whole hour still to come for you, including Collectomania, so don't go anywhere. Do you suffer from collectivism?
I started collecting when I was about 8 years old.
Do you have an obsession with objects?
I sort of got into collecting TV cars.
Are you a fanatic? A devotee? Are you someone exhibiting enthusiasm or strong passion?
When lockdown hit, when everyone was kind of bored at home, they started Googling, like, what are these things worth these days?
Cliff Central dispenses a weekly dose of Collectomania. Join me as I talk to compulsive collectors. Fascinating.
The frame's total value is probably about 12,000 rand.
Possibly a little weird.
I developed this infatuation with the Statue of Liberty.
Collectomania, Mondays on the Gareth Cliff Show. Brought to you by SA Gold Coin Exchange and The Scone Shop.
Next in the Auto Trader podcast.
I don't know if you know this, but do you know how much of an EV is recyclable?
An EV would have less oils and gases. A lot less oils and gases. So I think an ICE vehicle from a liquid oils and gases recycling. An ICE vehicle is going to give a lot more. EV is going to give a lot less. Then again, you're going to have a lot more coppers and wires and metals inside the EV. Versus an ICE vehicle. Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on autotrader.co.za.
Yes, indeed. You don't want to miss out on that. That is the Auto Trader podcast, and it's all here on cliffcentral.com or wherever you get your podcasts, George and the team. I got a comment here from somebody a little earlier on, which I thought was quite cool. Somebody said, 2 guests to look out for. This is Sanele. You look out for Dr. Hanan on Monday and Borj on a Friday. Frankly, from now on, it'll be known as Hanan Mondays and Borj Fridays. Who's with me? So some things that are starting to become entrenched and regular. Lots of questions about monogamy. This is from Claire. She says, is monogamy instinctive as mammals are something, something we've imposed on as a societal norm? Why can't we love more than one person? So then ongoing, if we knew the answer to that question, Claire, then we wouldn't be sitting here this morning. We'd be a lot healthier and happier as a species, I think. Congo Chris says, no man is an island, but once you learn how to be happy alone, it's really easy, even freeing to be single. And Carl blaming the vagina. So lovely. Shame. Carl, that's very unfair. I did laugh at this. And this is from Congo. Chris, he said, help me, Dr. Hanan. I have extreme depression from having to lug this massive penis around my entire life. Poor you, Congo Chris. Poor you. All right. A couple of things to get to this morning. I don't know if you've ever seen Hasbulla. And if you don't know who this is, then I'm going to try and explain it to you because I've got to actually look up his proper biog. Essentially, he looks like a baby, but he's physically like small, but he's an adult. So Hasbulla Magomedov is a social media influencer from Russia who's amassed approximately 2 million followers on Instagram. I'll show you who he is in a minute. There's a little video of him, but people don't seem to know terribly much about him. He's on TikTok. He's on Instagram. And he trades in cryptocurrencies. He gets involved in fights. He does all kinds of crazy things. He's about 3 foot 3 inches tall. So he looks like a young boy, but he's actually 18 years old. Again, if you believe social media. So I can't really say whether I know this is for real or not, but I've seen enough videos of Hasbulla to know that this is it's seemingly an adult, like in a child's body. So here he is in a video with an American dude. And the American guy's like, hey, do you watch that movie Cars, which is like a kid's movie, right? And he's like, no. So this guy's like, but I'm an adult and I watch it. And he's like, well, maybe your brain isn't properly developed. Look at this quickly.
Hasbulla's love for cars raises the obvious question.
You ever seen the movie?
Huh?
Cars?
You're
too big for cartoons? I'm an adult. I like Cars, the movie.
Although his taste in movies may be mature.
All right, so I don't know how much of this to believe. Hasbulla, if you know something about him, then maybe you can help us figure this out. But basically, he says to the guy that, your problem is like your brain is not properly developed. Now, if he's 18 and he looks like that, is that a disease? Is it some kind of what was that movie?
Abnormality.
What was that Brad Pitt movie where he goes backwards in time?
Button.
Benjamin Button, that's right. Is he like some kind of Benjamin Button? What's the story there about Hasbulla? If you know, let us know. Hasbulla is hero, says Congo Chris. He's a massive figure in the UFC circles. If he doesn't like you, it's likely the entire crowd will hate you. Okay. All right. So, I mean, John Bad Dog says, I know it's for real. There are 3 of them involved in the MMA world. These like people who look like kids, but they're actually adults. Wow. I really have never seen that before. And I thought it was a kid, but he gets into arguments and fights. He drives cars. He does all
Yeah.
kinds of shit that like he shouldn't be doing at that size. And he looks really young, even though he's 18 supposedly. Just fascinating. And I thought I'd have to drag Hasbulla into the conversation at some point because I'm fascinated by this. I think it's very, very interesting. I think he's very cool. I think he's also very freaky. But then that's just me. He is suffering from a condition called shortitis. Yeah, sure, Cabello. I'm absolutely sure it's called shortitis. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right. A lot of things that we promised we would get to this week that we haven't had a chance to yet, and we'll do Collectomania later on. And it's going to be with my sister. The whole my whole family I told you my whole family are insane, and we all collect things. So this morning it is the turn of my sister to show off her collection, and we'll get to that at about past this morning. But lots of other stuff to come, and we want to hear from you. So drop us a comment on the YouTube. We'd like to know what you're up to. We'd like to know what you got up to this weekend, and if you've got something interesting to tell us. Also, on the latest edition of Leadership Books Unpacked, which of course is one of our shows. This is a great show because what they do is they'll take one of these leadership books, these books that are either about self-help or it's about how you can run your business better. And I mean, these are the most popular books in any bookstore. You can see there's shelf after shelf after shelf of these leadership books. And these guys, Manda Tsifularo and Ngobile Ngobo, they both unpack The Power of the Other today by Dr. Henry Cloud. They share insights on the startling power of other people in our lives that will help us reach our goals. So that's pretty much what the book by Dr. Henry Cloud is about. They also speak about the key ingredients for building a psychologically safe team environment. You can find out more about that by listening to Leadership Books Unpacked, wherever you get your podcasts, brought to you by Super Lead. Make sure you don't miss it. All right, As, so you had this dinner with your landlords over the weekend. Did you manage to go outside at all with all this rain? Because I think a lot of people just kind of canceled their plans. I was mentioning to you, we didn't go shooting. I did go somewhere else. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But what did you do besides that? Just stay at home?
Also had many cancelled plans because of the rain. And I think after COVID and being at home, we're quite quick to say, I don't really want to go out in this weather.
Right.
It's kind of changed things. Whereas before, nothing would stop us,
Yeah, it's funny. There's also something really nice about a weekend where you wake up and it's rainy and you just carry on sleeping.
Yeah, there's that thing where, I had sort of 3 engagements planned for yesterday and 2 were cancelled in the morning. And I was in bed while they were cancelled. So the feeling of just pulling up the duvet.
Oh, it's so nice.
Oh,
the best.
Best.
You don't have to do anything else. So I ended up going. This is hilarious. So my mother said to me the other day, she heard there was some genealogy exhibition at the Voortrekker Monument, which I haven't been to in years. And I said to her, well, cool. Since they've canceled my dad canceled the shooting, why don't we go there? And, like my mother's grandmother was one of the people who laid the cornerstone of the monument because she was this descendant of Piet Retiefs and Andries Pretoriuses and all of that. There's that whole part of the family, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I trudge off and my dad says, oh, yeah, well, I'll come with you. So me and my mother and father go to this genealogy thing at the Voortrekker Monument. It was pretty interesting. There were people there selling books. There were all these families with their different surnames, all obviously Afrikaans families at this exhibition. And you could go up to them, and if your surname was, I don't know, Botha or Fourie or whatever, then they'd look it up and see where you were on the family tree and kind of help you to put it together. Because this is the second or the third most popular hobby in the world is doing family trees. So people all over the world are fascinated by this stuff. I've kind of always been into it, and there's lots of info, and I've been doing this since I was, 9, 10. But it comes and goes. So I don't always pay attention to it, and then suddenly I'll get into it again. And these days,
of course, it's a lot more scientific these days with the tests that we're able to do.
Oh yeah, they can figure out precisely where your kind of gene haplotype originated and where your people are from in the world, what percentage of you is X, Y, or Z. And I think it's really interesting, especially for people who who are fascinated by this stuff, clearly. But it was cool to see like young people, old people, all there trying to find out about where they come from. And I think that in South Africa, we've got pretty good record keeping. They've kept birth, marriage, and death certificates, but they're now these days they're also all these online resources which help people. So, before you would have had to find a library that had book after book after book of like family trees and birth and marriage and death certificates and all of that stuff. Now, these days, you can actually find all of that on the internet, and people have uploaded the original documents too, so you can actually go and read the kind of census documents from 1900 and see where your great grandparents were living at the time of that census. You can also find kind of original records and church records that are quite interesting to look at. So if you're interested in this stuff, it's good to see that this is still going on, and it is either the second or third most popular hobby in the world. So it's not as if it's a small niched interest.
Well, yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about finding out your lineage. It's an exciting thing. I mean, to tie the two topics that we've been talking about together, I found out last night with the dinner with my landlords that the cottage that I'm staying in was, because they've been in this house for 42 years, right?
Right.
So they knew when this house was built, which was in the 1950s, which is relatively modern for the area. But it turned out that this was actually a small holding, and where I am now was the horse stables. And then you're able to start piecing things together about the structure of the building. So yeah, it's interesting to find out these things.
Are you sleeping in a stable?
Yeah, I'm basically in a stable. Actually, I'm looking at the stable door right now. I'm sitting where one of the horses would have shat.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this stuff is interesting, and if you have no curiosity about it, I just think that's a bit sad. You sort of want to know, and sometimes you're going to find out things that aren't so great, and sometimes you're going to find out things that really are interesting and fantastic and amazing and terrific, and that blow your mind. But you've got to take the chance. How else are you going to be able to piece together at least half of who you are comes from that? At least half.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even the things that are not so great can still be interesting because you're not tied to them anymore. I mean, your great 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 grandfather might have been a mass murderer, or you may have come from a line of prostitute homes, or they're still interesting even if they're not great.
Yeah. Well, this is a nasty comment from Carl. He says, but there are only 7 Afrikaans surnames, right? It's like a family bush, not a family tree. Well, you may not be so far from the truth, actually. 3Ann, you sound a bit hoarse, says Woody. All right, very nice. Congo Chris says, this is a good one. If your grandmother has a kist, start there. It's usually a massive repository of documents about your family, lots of photos. It went with a bride as a form of an early Facebook for them to revert back. That's a good point. In fact, we discussed that. Who was on the show when we were talking about kists? Because it's also a thing, like in black families, a lot of the grandmothers kind of hand over a whole bunch of stuff to a girl who's getting married.
Yes.
She takes that with her, and it kind of keeps the connection with the family strong. I'm not sure who told us about that just the other day.
Yeah. There's that, and then I'm watching a documentary at the moment of these people in America who restore houses from as far back as 1730, and how most of these original homes have the deed to the house embedded in the last post of the stairs in the entrance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, things like that. So they're able to uncover that sort of history.
Can you imagine finding a secret room in your house? It was built a long time ago, and you find a secret room, and it's full of I don't know. I mean, obviously, you immediately jump to the conclusion that it might be filled with treasure, and there's some hidden, like, gold or whatever it is in there. But just finding an old document like under the floorboards or something would be fantastic.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at this this picture that I have. I'll bring it down.
Look at this.
You can see from the back, it's a really old guy.
It's been framed and reframed like 50 times. Oh, wow.
So this is an antique that I picked up, and it was interesting. And speaking of Collectomania, that we spoke to that antique store owner in Melville.
Yeah,
this is actually from an antique store in Melville, and I love her face. She's mischievous.
Amazing. But she's also wearing like this incredible fur collar, right?
Yes, absolutely.
She's
I keep her. Isn't she lovely?
Have you given her a name?
I haven't, but we did fool my uncle, who helped me hang it at one stage, who said, "Who is this?" And we said, "That's Auntie Beryl." And he said, "Oh, I don't remember her." But the most fascinating part is one day while I was moving this picture, this originally had some brown paper covering the backing, but I moved it and turned it onto its side and felt something inside drop.
Ooh.
Eventually, after giving it a bit of a shake, I realized that there was something behind it.
What?
So I had the choice now whether to leave it intact or pry open the brown paper to see what was underneath. And I couldn't help myself. I had to do it. So I got a knife and gently opened it. And inside is a handwritten letter. I actually need to dig it out so I can remember exactly when it was. But it was from, I think, pre-1950.
Wow.
And it was written by the artist to this woman who's in the painting.
Oh my God.
She was his...
You can actually, she was his muse. You can actually find out what her real name was.
Yes, absolutely. And the handwriting is actually quite difficult to decipher. So I still need to take a proper look. But the letter paper is falling apart, so I've got it preserved between files. So that was an amazing, exciting find.
Damn, that's cool. Now that painting has such a story attached to it. That's phenomenal. How come you haven't shown this to us before?
I was going to show it to you last week when we had the Melville Antique story on. But we ran out of time, and I mean, he was just so fascinating, so he filled up all of the slot.
God, that story is just amazing, and I love that painting. It's beautiful.
Oh, she's really amazing.
No, she looks
so
like whoever
I have her right here, so I can look up at it while I'm working.
Wow, Leigh-Ann, lots of secrets. An aunt of mine found an old chest, and it was also locked, and she had us all convinced that there was something fantastic in there. We didn't find anything when we eventually broke it open, because she gave us permission to like break it open. And I think it was at an Easter or a Christmas or something. She pulled this thing out, and we all thought, oh, we're going to find some phenomenal, some letter or some story in here. There was nothing. It was empty, dry as a bone, nothing in there. But you always imagine, because of movies, I suppose, that there's going to be something terrific in there.
Yeah.
You actually found something. You found treasure.
And you think about these divers as well, who've been looking for sunken boats and lost treasure, and eventually they do find things.
Well, I'm always blown away by these treasure hunters who do. They go into the Caribbean and they dig up these old Spanish galleons, and because gold doesn't rust, they find these perfectly intact gold coins from 400-500 years ago, which must be worth an absolute fortune now. Not only because they're made of gold, which continues to hold its value, and in fact must have increased in value in huge increments since that time, but also because this is old money. This is like from a certain period of time, and it's stamped and it's dated, and you can actually figure out exactly which ship it was. I mean, those are the kinds of shows I love. Trust me, I'm not interested in television at the moment, and mostly when I see History Channel or Discovery Channel or any of those, I know that they're not going to be shows about history or anything to do with science or anything else. They're always just bullshit shows like Hoarders or...
yes. No, you
stories,
do find good
wars,
ones.
or whatever it is. Those, I mean, it irritates me that there aren't any history stories or any history programs on the History Channel. None. It's all become. It's like MTV. There are no music videos on MTV anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's like dumb shows
It's
about
so
these
true.
these reality shows about these people who live in Los Angeles.
Actually, this program that I found with the old American homes is on HGTV, which is like a home and garden television program channel. But I think what was also interesting, talking about finding secret rooms, in the one that I watched yesterday, they found this old original door that had been painted shut and without a handle, and they managed to pry it open, and it led to the tiniest, most cramped funnel of stairs, and the stairs were spiral. So they were so precarious. I mean, if you'd have to go on your tippy toes to go up the staircase. And it turned out, because this was in quite a large home, that was the butler's staircase, so that the servants could move around the house without being seen by the guests and the homeowners.
Incredible. Yeah. Oh man, I often will. I'll go onto Instagram or just the internet generally. If you look up like hidden rooms or secret rooms or whatever, you find these incredible ways that architects and interior designers these days conceal. Like the kids will have like a secret playroom under the stairs or something, and imagine you're like a 5-year-old and you've got your own secret fort under the stairs. I mean, that would just, any kid would just love that, right?
That no adult knew about.
Yeah.
But and someone commented a little earlier about Krugerrands. Imagine finding Krugerrands. It was quite recently that I shared a story, and when I tell it to you now, you'll probably remember. But it was in Canada, where these new homeowners found that their daughter in her bedroom in this whole home that they'd moved into realized that the wall panels on one of the walls, the wooden slats, were a bit loose, and she pried that open, and it led to a secret room. And in that secret room, it was completely empty except for a box of, I think, 3 drawers. And in that drawer, they found, in the bottom drawer, some half Krugerrands, which was interesting because that's in Canada.
Jeez, incredible. I love stories like this. To me, that just adds such character to a place and to a person's story in life. I love this painting of yours has got everybody talking. Parallel Parking says, our immediate response to that painting is what he likely felt for her, which he obviously skillfully translated into brush strokes. They must have been lovers or something.
I think so.
Damn, look at her. She's so grand.
She really is. And she's naughty too.
Yeah, you've just got a sparkle in the eye.
Yeah.
Damn, that's cool. All right, so Jared says, an amateur treasure hunter found my great uncle's wedding ring while diving the wreck of the HMS Opal almost 100 years to the date of the tank. Wow. Your
How on earth did you make that connection?
Wedding ring. Well, maybe the wedding ring was actually inscribed and they would have had to look it up, and then they would have found the relatives. That's just tremendous. 100-year-old wedding ring at the bottom of the sea. I hope you've got it now, Jared, because that thing can tell a story. Again, objects. This is what I love about Collectomania. I know we've kind of started Collectomania a bit early this morning, thanks to this conversation, but it's just so cool. Vyasan says, I just saw that painting, Leigh-Ann. Wow. I know you don't have any kids. I can be your 45-year-old son. We'll throw in the grandkids for free. Vyasan wants your painting. That's amazing. Yeah, sure. Damn, that's cool. Anyway, I was watching one of these YouTube videos the other day of these people who can construct these rooms, and they showed how you can have like a fake wall. It looks like a stone wall, but then when you press a certain button or you move something on the floor or whatever, and I mean, it makes me feel like I'm in an Indiana Jones movie. And then suddenly the whole thing opens up, but it opens on the kind of spaces between the stones, so you wouldn't.
Yes, it's all sort of jaggedy.
Yeah. You wouldn't see it normally. You wouldn't even know what it would, that it was there. And you imagine you could have, you could put all your files in there, or you could, you could turn it into like a little secret den for you to hide out in or whatever. I think that's so cool, these little hidden rooms. It's amazing. It's really,
talking about what we were with Dr. Hanan earlier,
Mhm.
you could hide in there and bust your cheating spouse without them knowing that you're in there watching them.
Right, exactly. I love this. Congo Chris says I hated this about Titanic as well. That old bitch in the Titanic made everyone listen to her for 3 hours and then threw the treasure into the ocean. Fuck her. Yeah, exactly. Couldn't agree more. But it is just a story, right? That was the part they made up. That old lady. Mm-hmm. Apparently, Robin says it's nobody's property in the sea, right? Diving for winches is where the money is. Well, I don't know. What happens if you're a treasure hunter and you find something at the bottom of the sea? Do you have to hand it over to anybody, or is it whatever you find as keepers?
I think it depends on whether the water's in certain territory or not.
Wow. John Bad Dog says, I knew a lady that did a bathroom renovation in Joburg South and found 100,000 Rand under the bath.
Ooh.
Imagine that. Holy shit.
Who forgot that? They must have died before retrieving it.
They must. Exactly. That's, you know how many people must like die before they get to retrieve their treasure, and then someone else finds it years later. So cool. It makes me want to go and like do treasure hunting now. Jared says there was an inscription on the inside of that ring that he was telling us about, to Stanley from Flo. It is now in the Maritime Museum in Barrow-in-Furness, where our family has a rich history of working as ship makers. Wow. Okay, that's pretty damn cool. Amazing. Vyasan says, sounds like a drug dealer's house where the 100,000 Rand was found under the bath. One day we've got to have a discussion on the show about where to hide stuff in your house.
Yes.
Because people come up with very, very clever ideas. Like under the bath is a good idea because, there's all that space there. I would just always be worried that things would get wet. Of course, they won't, because the bath, is sealed unless it's leaky. So it's actually a very safe place to put stuff. But how do you access it without like breaking stuff?
Well, I know a very good place to hide jewelry, rings, and diamonds.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I should share it now.
No, don't share it now, but we'll get to it one day. We'll get to it. All right. It is time for Collectomania. It's brought to you by the South African Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. And remember, last year around this time, we actually spoke to my brother about his collection of action figures and Lego. And today it's my sister's turn, because I told you my whole family are crazy. So here is my sister, Sandra.
Eccentric.
Hello, Sandra. How are you?
Hello, good, and you?
Good. So we're going to talk to her.
Hi, Leigh-Ann.
We're going to talk to her about her collection, and you can see some of them on the wall behind her. She collects ukuleles. So there are a couple of them on the wall behind her in her study. So, okay, first of all, who do you think is the craziest when it comes to collecting things? Me, you, or Robert?
Robert is probably the most
obsessive.
He's probably got the biggest collection out of the three of us. But I also think that your collection is mad.
Yeah,
so I think you're the craziest.
Oh, thanks very much. Okay. Well, now we got that out of the way. All right. So you actually play the ukulele. I've heard her play. She does a very good job of it. You learned how to play, and you only had one years ago.
Yes.
That was enough for you. And that was the one you learned to play on. But since then, you've decided that you want to collect these things. How many have you got now?
I now have a full set of 10, 11, including the giant guitar behind me. But the guitar is not part of the ukulele collection. So I've got 10 of them. Some of them, but I'll get there now. So the ukulele is actually a Hawaiian instrument that was popularized in the 19th century. It's a version of the Portuguese machete.
Oh, machete, as in like, I only know machete from the movies. Machete kills.
Yes. No, but this is an instrument. It's a Portuguese machete. It's a small little guitar. So it's a string guitar-like instrument. It's super small. The sopranos... You can see the sopranos in the back. Only four strings. The guitar has 6. So then you get 4 different sizes of ukuleles. You get a soprano, like the little skull behind me, and then you get a tenor. You get a concert, which is the in between a soprano and a tenor, and then you get the bass or the baritone. I don't have any bass or baritone ukuleles, but I have sopranos and I have concerts and I have tenors.
Okay, ukuleles. That's how you spell it.
Ukuleles. Yes.
The ukulele.
Exactly.
All right. So you said you've got 10 at the moment, but you've already earmarked a whole bunch that you still want to buy. In fact, when I came to visit you the other day, you told me that there's a series that you want to buy.
Yes, so there's the surf series, which are all little sopranos, and they all look like surfboards. So they've made them similarly with the stripes and stuff to surfboards. It is awesome, and I definitely want those. Then there's also the Beatles printed faces and signatures. So it's a little soprano ukulele with all of the Beatles faces and their signatures on it. Obviously, it's a print, but I want that ukulele more than anything.
Right.
But then you also get very cool little ones. There are pineapple ones. They're actually called, the shape of them is called a pineapple. So they're circular rather than having the little indents on the sides.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the pineapple. Then they've also made an avocado and a watermelon one, which are super sweet.
Okay, cool. All right, so out of all of those, let's just show a picture of the ones that you've got displayed on the wall there, because those are not all of them, but they're some of them. So accepting the guitar in the middle, which one do you actually play?
Okay, so this one is the one that I played. This is my Fender.
Hang on, there we are. Okay, right.
There's my Fender. So this is the one that I actually play. It's tuned to a low G for those who know. It's got mother of pearl on the sides.
Nice. All right.
And then it's got the metal string.
Okay, very good.
Wow.
Do the others also have metal string, or are they?
No.
Okay.
All of the others have nylon.
Okay.
Generally, I don't know. There's some people in the ukulele community that say if you put a metal string on, you're sadistic. But because of the tension on the neck of the guitar, of the ukulele.
Are you meant to restring them every now and then? How does it work?
Yes, I've just restrung my Fender.
Which one did you restring, Sandy?
I restrung this one, and Leigh-Ann, this one that I just showed.
Yeah.
But this is my favorite one. It's got the most beautiful sound. There are also different tunings that you can do on ukuleles. There's a low G, a high G. The difference in sound is pretty cool. I don't know if I can do it now, but yeah, so it's super, super cool. I love ukuleles. I want more of them in my life.
Can you play us something?
I'm not really concert ready, Leigh-Ann, but I mean, I can try and show you just the difference in the tuning so that you can actually hear what the ukulele sounds like.
Yeah,
so let me try and put my microphone right there. So that's my low G tuning. But now I'm playing on the neck as well, so it doesn't sound as nice. Then you've got the high G tuning, which sounds like this. So the only difference is the first string.
Sounds amazing. Because usually the ukulele sounds quite tinny
plucky
and sort of plucky and frolicky, and that's got some really nice resonance.
It also, I mean, I've heard you play, and you actually do play pretty well. And I also, if someone said to me play live on the show, I wouldn't do it either. So
no.
But it is a happier sound. Like a ukulele seems to me to have that. It's got that kind of Hawaiian, tropical feel, and I think that's lovely. I mean, a lot of people play the guitar, but not everybody plays the ukulele. It's kind of a little bit different. Plus, it's way more portable because they're much smaller.
Exactly. That's what I love about the ukulele is firstly, it's super easy to learn. I learned back in 2014. There was a young British girl that was doing YouTube videos. She did like a series of YouTube videos of how to learn the ukulele called Becky, and I learned through her. So I just started watching her YouTube videos where she showed us every chord and sort of how to start the strumming process and that kind of thing. And that's how I started playing.
Are they expensive?
No, not at all. A soprano will set you back probably 500 to 900 rand, depending on the make.
Okay.
So they're super, super cheap. In fact, their starter kits on Take-A-Lot for between 1,200 and 1,500 rand.
Okay, so this is an accessible thing for anybody. You don't have to have
absolutely
tons of money. All right, but as you go up in you become more well versed in this, you end up spending more and more money, right? So are there very expensive collector's edition ukuleles that cost an absolute fortune, that only 10 of them exist in the world, that kind of thing?
Okay, so the most expensive ukulele in the world it's called an Elia or an Elia ukulele. It was made for Elia Papalardi.
Of course, we all know who that is.
No, well, anyway, okay. So John de Angelico, for those who do know ukulele and music, John de Angelico made this ukulele. And in 1983, her son, Elia Papalardi's son, inherited the ukulele. He was then murdered. Now, Felix Papalardi is actually he's the producer for Cream.
Oh, really? The band Cream that was with Eric Clapton?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, so he was the producer for that. So he was murdered by his girlfriend in 1983, and this ukulele just disappeared off the face of the earth. And then in 2007, it was sold on eBay for $26,000. So that's the most expensive ukulele in the world at the moment.
Someone had to be murdered for it to become that expensive.
Apparently, if you get murdered,
if you
everything.
Want your collection value to increase.
Yeah, don't.
All right. Well, that's so you've now got these ones you want. There's some others that you want. That you display them on the wall there, and you had to buy those. What do you call them? Those clips?
The brackets,
the brackets that they hang on. Now, even those are expensive. You had to buy a specific bracket that you actually just push them in, and then they close up and they hold on.
Yeah. So with gravity, there are two little pegs on either side of them that sort of come down like this with gravity. So that's very cool. But yeah, I battled to find them at first, and then I managed to find them. But they set you back quite a lot. But that's obviously for display purposes. And it also just protects the instrument so it doesn't let them move around too much in wind or whatever the case may be.
Okay. No, very cool. All right, so you're not going to run out of space for displaying these things, and it hasn't got to a point where it's obsessive like some people get, and your whole house is filled with them.
Well, it's close. I mean, I've got a lot surrounding me right now. I have a lot of ukuleles.
Yeah, and you don't put them all on one wall. That picture that we showed just now is just a few of them, right?
Yeah, that's just a couple of them. And then I've got one in my chambers, and then I've got 3 that I play. But those ones I've displayed for you now, yeah. But there are some very cool... sorry, Leigh-Ann.
It's quite rare to see someone play a ukulele without singing. Now, is that something that do you play and sing?
No, I'm not much of a singer, Leigh-Ann.
Okay. Well,
I'm not
prefer
much of a
that
singer.
actually. I'd like to hear ukulele music just, without anyone singing. I think that might be quite nice for a change.
Yes. Well, there is a famous, he's quite famous on Instagram, and he's done a lot of concerts and stuff. That's Jake Shimabukuro, who is he's phenomenal, and he became famous by playing Bohemian Rhapsody on the ukulele.
Ah.
Okay.
Which is insane. And I mean, that video you can go and have a look at on YouTube or on Instagram, and it's phenomenal because he doesn't sing at all. But there's some famous people that play the ukulele that you guys might be quite interested in, and it's some of them that you wouldn't expect. So, firstly, Marilyn Monroe made it famous in Some Like It Hot. She had a little white ukulele in that. Elvis Presley, obviously with Blue Hawaii.
Right.
He played the ukulele. 3 of the Beatles played it. So George Harrison was obviously the forerunner that used to play ukulele in the Beatles. John Lennon and Paul McCartney both played it. Bing Crosby.
Okay.
Eddie Vedder. Sybil Shepherd.
Oh, wow.
Sybil Shepherd. Steven Tyler.
Right.
William Macy.
Yeah.
Cindy Lauper.
Wow.
Cindy Lauper
William
plays
Macy,
it.
I think I've seen him playing it. Yes.
Yeah. William Macy. Pierce Brosnan.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Taylor Swift. Tony Blair. Tony Blair, Gareth, your favorite plays it.
Tony Blair. He's not my favorite.
Yes.
So Tracy says Sarah McLachlan and John Resnick from the Goo Goo Dolls are both very good ukulele players too.
Yes.
And Carl says, did you know that in Europe after Brexit they're now called uleles because the UK has come out?
That's awesome. Okay. Some others, Gareth. So Tony Blair, Ryan Gosling, Neil Armstrong, the astronaut, plays it.
That's played before he was dead, but yes.
Well, yes. Okay, then we've all seen Adam Sandler in 50 First Dates play it. Tony Danza, Gareth. Tony Danza plays the ukulele. Can you believe it?
From Who's the Boss?
I kind of imagine him having very big, clumsy fingers for some reason.
Kevin wants to know, where did you first get your love for the ukulele? So why did you decide on that?
I've always wanted to play a string instrument. I tried the guitar. I tried it very hard. There are just too many strings for me, and I couldn't do it. So I started looking from the guitar to the ukulele, and then I got one from our parents in 2014 for my birthday. I said I really, really want one because I'm going to start playing it, and it's actually, let me show you quickly. It is the top little brown one.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that starts with little chords on it, which is quite sweet. So you start with C and F and G. So it's got little numbers, little dots on it with different colors so that you can see which chords they are.
Like the beginner's edition.
Exactly. So it was the beginner's edition one, and I said as soon as I could play 100 songs or learn how to play 100 songs, then I'd buy my first one. Then I bought a tenor because I like the deeper sound of the tenor. The soprano is very sweet and makes everything sound very happy and Hawaiian, and the tenor is a bit more of a guitar. It's got a bit more of a soul to it.
Okay.
So I first started playing ukulele because I couldn't play the guitar.
That was my next question. I mean, I'm a piano player, so I've never really understood string instruments. And so does it mean that if you can play a guitar, you can play a ukulele? Does it mean the opposite way as well?
Not necessarily. I think if you're a brilliant guitarist, I think a ukulele will be super easy for you. But I think to go from ukulele to guitar, that those two extra strings, you're not quite sure what to do with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it would probably be easy also to, I mean, it would be difficult rather to figure out the other way around, because for a guitarist, suddenly there are two strings missing that you would normally be playing. I mean, I wouldn't know.
Yes.
I've never actually played a string instrument in my life, and I guaranteed would be shit at it. But how long did it take you to learn?
It takes you a while, but as I say, I mean, on YouTube you can learn in 6 months. If you practice sort of an hour a day.
And can you read music, or do they just give you the chords?
No, I can't read music at all.
Okay.
I tried. I also did piano, Leigh-Ann, and if I played Ode to Joy one more time, I was going to lose my shit. but yeah, so piano is horrible. I didn't like piano, and I always wanted to play a string instrument. So I think, Gags, I think you do have a point there. The two missing strings, these are basically the last 4 strings of a guitar, depending on the tuning.
Okay.
So it's just those 2 bass strings on a guitar that you don't really know what to do with.
Okay.
But still, I think as a piano player, coming down from a standard piano to a little keyboard, you know how to make it work.
Yes.
Well,
no, exactly.
Yasin says here that I play guitar, the chords are easier on the ukulele. I mean,
there we go. There we go.
That's all we need to understand about that.
Thanks for answering that. Yes.
Yeah, so, I mean, this is really cool. Somebody also asked earlier. Let's find this question quickly. Didn't Paul Simon play one on Graceland? I can't answer that. I'm not entirely sure.
I'm not entirely sure either.
If anybody knows about that, then let us know, because I can't answer it. Do you collect any other things?
No. Ukuleles are my collection at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Well, thanks for being on the show. Now
Thanks for
everybody
having
knows
me.
all three of us collect all kinds of things in this family, and I don't know what we're going to do with all these things, because ultimately I don't know that that my brother's kids are going to be very interested in your ukuleles or in my books or in chemicals.
Probably not.
So I don't think these things are going to. We'll have to donate them to a cat's home or something. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, because cats generally love ukuleles.
Yeah, we know
and
that.
swords.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're so
It's their
dexterous.
favorite thing. All right, Sandra, thanks for being on the
Thanks
show.
so much, and thanks for having me.
Sure, no problem. There we go. I promised that we'd get the whole family on eventually, so we're making our way through that slowly but surely.
There you go. Love
All
that.
right, so that's Collectomania, and it's brought to you by the South African Gold Coin Exchange and the Scoin Shop. You can find out more by going along to scoinshop.com, and they've got some incredible stuff for sale there, or for investment purposes. You might want to start a collection, but you might also just want to be investing, taking some of your money and putting it into gold, platinum, silver. We know these things have increased in value and that they continue to. Right?
Yeah.
Sanela says,
investments.
I'll inherit your loot, Gareth. Well, okay, if you want it, but some of it's not very valuable. I'll just point that out. So Congo Chris saying, I'll gladly take Gareth's element collection. Yeah, again, some of them you don't want in a house. It's not the safest thing in the world. I just want to show you these pictures quickly of the home of Collectomania, which of course is the Scoin Shop, which you can find in their new venue, which is right opposite the big Nedbank head office on Rivonia Road. And it's where the Village Walk used to be. Remember the Village Walk?
Oh, yes.
Yes. And it's now called, what is it called now? It's what's that whole thing called now? Where it's Saint is and all of that stuff. It's beautiful. Anyway, you know where it is. So they put up this lovely sign saying collectors welcome at the entrance. And there you can see in the background that building, which is now famous down Rivonia Road. So they've got a big sign up saying collectors welcome. And I thought that was pretty cool. Rail showed it to us the other day from the Scoin Shop. Go and visit them. You might find something very cool to start off your own collection. How excellent would that be? The Mark, thank you. Jeez, I can't believe I forgot.
Thanks,
that.
Justin Nell.
Mark, but it's the Mark with a C. So
yes,
don't use anything else. The Mark with a C.
It's like my brother's name is spelled Mark with a C, and he's known by, he's called by quite a few people Mark with a C.
Very good. All right. Let's just see. Someone wants to borrow one of my sister's ukuleles here, the pastel blue one. I'll fight you for Gareth's collection, Congo Chris, says Sanele. All right, all of you can carry on fighting. That's enough for this morning. We've got plenty of good stuff for you tomorrow too. And have an excellent Monday, everybody. Be good. If you're not, take photos. We will see you tomorrow. Cheers, cheers.